All right, we're back. It's episode number 5 of the FileMaker Fanatics podcast. I'm Tony White, and we have with us the famous Scott Rose.
Woohoo! Episode 5, FileMaker Fanatics.
So we still have not quite as many views as you have on your YouTube videos.
Well, people might be actually wondering. I'm sorry, I just totally changed the topic like immediately. I was going to say people might be wondering why we spent so much time in between episode 4 and episode 5. It's because we just finished all the fan mail tonight.
That's right.
We just finished reading all the fan mail. It took us that many months to get through all the fan letters, Tony.
Yeah, I know it's
So
exhausting. Please do not send the fan. We got it. You love the podcast. Thanks.
you love the podcast. Look, if you keep sending emails, it's going to be another 6 months before we do the next episode.
Exactly. I think actually I was looking at the calendar, and we've been moving to an annual release cycle.
See, whatever FileMaker Incorporated does, that's what we do.
We just follow.
Has it
Um,
really been a year since we've done this?
no, but I
That
had
is
to kind of
hilarious.
try and make a joke there.
I love it. I love it. No, annual release cycle for our podcast is perfect.
It's been, I don't know, it's been a while. And in that time, FileMaker Incorporated has shipped version 15 of the FileMaker platform.
Woohoo! You know what? Tony, how do you feel about FileMaker 15?
Um, well, you're going to have to lead on this because I've been looking at it and playing with it. And it's been out, I think as of this moment, it's been out a month, something like that, maybe 5 weeks. And so you were doing our typical thing, testing the features. The day it came out, the morning that it came out, which was a Tuesday, I did what I always do with a new version. I went to the FileMaker website and I, took the content because they break it down into I think it was 12 or 16 new features. And
Mm.
then I loaded it up into my FileMaker correspondence generation system. And I went through it and I thought about all the different people we're working with. And I sent, emails. It's like, hey, here's the feature you care about.
Oh, that's smart. That's
Kind of cherry
smart.
picking.
Oh, I like that. That's really good. That's really good that you systematically go through every feature and then you email the client that would benefit from that feature. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah,
That's a
because
wonderful idea.
we have a lot of people who are like, who's got enough attention span to go through 16 features except for you and I.
Of course, this time around, a lot of the features are really under the hood. Not all of them, like there's the concealed edit box and stuff, and the portal inline progress bar, which the users can see. But a lot of them are under the hood. I got to tell you, I think that FileMaker 15 really marks a breakthrough from FileMaker Incorporated. I'm very pleased with this release. I think what's happened over the last 12 months is that FileMaker Incorporated has changed into a new company. It feels like they're actually, for the first time in a long time, they're actually listening and responding to feedback. It feels like we're in a brand new era of FileMaker. For example, they radically changed this year's DevCon. I mean, they were tied into Las Vegas for 2 years, so they couldn't change out of the city, but they made massive, 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 massive changes to this year's DevCon to try to bring it back up to the quality of previous DevCons. And FileMaker 15, they fixed so many bugs and little problems underneath the hood. I mean, it's like almost right up there with FileMaker 13. They just need to fix a few tiny more things, and then we're like home free. And it all comes from them actually having their ears open. They're actually listening to developers. They're actually responding to us. I don't know. It feels like there's been a shift at the company.
You know, I saw some things that I think are extremely positive. First off, just to pick up on what you're saying about the bug fixes, I saw somebody tweeted this out. I forget who. That they counted how many times FileMaker tech support. I think it was either TS Gal or TS Falcon or the two people together. There was like 100 plus or minus things where they said fixed with
Wow,
15. So
amazing.
that was kind of unprecedented, the amount of stability, because I think any software company, they're going to try and find a balance between pushing features forward and polishing the rough edges. And I think
Yeah,
15, the sense that I get is that they did a lot of polishing, and so that's great. I like
they
stability.
really did.
That's big for me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They did a lot of polishing. FileMaker 15 has been extremely stable, has not unexpectedly quit or anything, any problems. I haven't had any. I mean, this has been, I mean, despite the few little problems I still have, and they're not bugs, right? They're just features that aren't fully implemented yet. Besides these few little things, I think FileMaker 15 is one of the most polished, most stable, and most robust performance wise versions that we've seen in years from FileMaker. I mean, I think FileMaker 15 is really a shining new direction for FileMaker as far as I'm concerned. I'm very happy with this release.
We're in the middle of doing a migration. I've said it before. We have clients. It's just the natural lay of the land is we have clients on 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 a little bit. And we have a big system moving from 11 up to the 14, 15 space. And, I feel good. With my ear to the ground, I'm hearing stability. And with a big system, stability is number one.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you and me and so many other developers, we have clients, all of us, that have been using FileMaker for 10, 15, 20 years now. And, and because FileMaker is such a great product, these companies have grown and grown and grown and grown. Like my Kessler camera client, when I started building their FileMaker system, I always bring up them because they're one of my most famous systems that a lot of people
Well, it's
know
a
about.
giant, big system, yeah.
Yeah, huge system. But what's so funny is it started off when the company was like only like 5 employees or something like that. I don't even remember. It was tiny, right? I mean, the whole company, was basically squeezed into one office. And now that company has something like 175 employees, all using this FileMaker system. And what that goes to show is that FileMaker is reliable. It grows with the times. It changes with the times. But it's got to be stable, right? Because now you've got gigantic companies using FileMaker, and it has to be rock solid stable.
Yeah, so I think it's a good place, and I guess I don't think every company is going to get a 20 to 1 or 20 plus to 1 growth, but yeah, we've seen a lot of the same things. It's an amazing platform,
Is
and so there is a bunch of 15 features. So what do you like in 15? I'm counting. I lost count. 12 to 18 new features.
interesting.
On top of all the stability stuff, you have
Well,
you have any favorites?
well, there's a lot of the big features that they're bragging about on their website, but the funny thing is that I like a lot of the things that they cleaned up under the hood for developers, meaning that these are things that our clients aren't really going to see, but they really affect us in a really positive way. Like, for example, um, well, this was a bug in previous versions in FileMaker 14. I mean, where comments would not wrap in the script workspace, which basically made it pretty much unusable if you were upgrading an old system and you had really long comments in your scripts. But they fixed that, so comments wrap now.
That was a big one. I think that made a lot of people happy. So that's a big productivity fix right there.
Yeah, huge one. The other thing is you'll notice that they're starting to build out these new preferences in the script workspace. If you go up to if you're in script workspace and you go up to view and you pull down the script workspace preferences, there's a brand new general tab in there. And I'm hoping that this is going to be fleshed out in the
Hold on,
future.
I knew about that. Hold on, let me go look. Where do I go for this?
Go into script workspace
Okay.
and then go up to the view menu and pull down to script workspace preferences. And now we have the option to display new scripts in the scripts menu or not. That was a big problem in FileMaker 14.
Oh,
So
I
now
see.
you
Okay,
can
cool.
disable that, which is what most developers always want to do.
Nice.
And but the thing is, what I'm loving though is I'm loving that there's a lot of space on that screen. I'm hoping we're going to get a lot of preferences
Okay.
coming soon there. Some of the other things they
Well,
cleaned up.
let me just say there's
Yeah.
always a roadmap, and I think it's kind of fun to see. Like you'll see one thing, and whatever it might be the iOS SDK or something, and then FileMaker just as a policy isn't going to tell you what's coming next, but you're like these guys have got like this is a one step, and they got something else planned, and then 2 versions or 3 versions. Like I see what you did.
Yeah. You were building those. It was like stepping stones that you were building in the past for the future.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
so so what else?
Hey,
What else do you
well,
see?
here's another great thing they brought back in layout mode. Finally, they brought back the colors to the toolbar again, so we can tell the difference between the different symbols again.
I like colors.
Very good. Now, the problem is, see, this is where they've only half implemented some of these things. One of the problems is when you go back into browse mode, there's still no colors. So, which is sort of a problem because the new record button and the delete record button look very, very similar to each other.
Yeah.
Delete should always be in red and new record should probably be green or something or blue.
Yeah, I think some I don't know where this comes from, this monochromatic thing. It's I like the colors in the layout mode. I think that's great. I think colors are useful. And I think it comes from Apple. It's a nice company. I like it in general. I feel thankful that Apple is not designing like traffic lights. Did you get a watch? I mean, I
No, I can't get my iPad, my iPhone, and my Mac to talk with each other. It's like I'm not going to add a fourth device into it, you know?
so yeah, I didn't do the watch. I don't wear a watch. I mean, I have a phone, but that's working. I mean, I do have the rest of the Apple suite. I've got the phone, I got the iPod, I've got the iPad, all of which can run FileMaker Go. Awesome product,
A great,
and the desktop, of
great
course.
product. Great product. Yeah, I feel like Apple, it's so funny. I feel like Apple's quality control has gone downhill while FileMaker's quality control is starting to go uphill, actually.
I'm happy. I'll know. I'm very optimistic, actually. I'm kind of excited about some of the clients that we have. We, like I said, we get a pretty big client moving, and it's not only is it big
Fantastic.
in terms of the size of the system, it's also big in terms of the integrations that we have, because we've got ESS. And this also, you have this big platform. It's non-trivial to migrate some of these things. We've got a
It's
big
true.
ESS situation. We've got a QuickBooks integration. So we're running Mac and Windows.
Oh, that's
Forget it.
fantastic.
What else we have? We have some Apple script, which is, not going to be a big issue. It's mostly outward-facing Apple script. We've got some base elements plugin. We're integrating with the Ruby on Rails. So
Amazing. Amazing. FileMaker can do almost anything. Think about how powerful FileMaker is. It's like the answer to almost every business's needs, really.
I think it can be, and it also, when we see, a little bump here or a little bump there, when you consider like what a massive amount of code base that
Yeah.
they have, that they're moving forward, that it's both deep and wide, mobile, web, desktop, Mac, Windows, server.
Yeah.
There's such a massive amount of code with a
Yeah.
deep level of functionality. It's impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. A couple other little things, if you don't mind me interjecting
No,
for a
jump on
second.
in. I'm taking
It's
notes.
Oh, that's wonderful. And I'm talking really from a developer point of view right now, not from a client point of view. So the
Yeah, let's not
client,
kid ourselves. I mean, that's what's most important.
well, I'm just pleased that they're paying attention to the developers again, which is great. One of the things that made FileMaker 14 completely unusable is that in the script workspace, you could not expand the left margin, which actually shows your script names, wide enough to show you the full name of your scripts. If your scripts names were over 50 characters, it would only expand wide enough to show about 50 characters or so.
We have actually a coding standard that we will not name our scripts more than 100 characters long here. And you probably know why that is.
Is that what the width was? It would only go out to 100 characters?
Unless they changed it, I think the maximum script you cannot name a
Oh, you
script.
can't. Oh, you're saying the program as a whole won't let you go out past 100. That's hilarious.
Therefore, we don't. Same thing with table occurrences, actually.
Oh yeah. The thing is that and there's a limit on the length of characters and field names, all that stuff. But yeah,
Is field names really? Okay, I'll take your word. And there'll be a quiz, by the way, if anyone's listening. There'll be a quiz at
quiz.
the end of the show. All right, so wait. So yeah, I see. Just testing. I've got FileMaker 15 open here, and I'm playing along at home. And it is exactly as you say. And yeah, that was a polish. That's good.
A really nice polish. Another really nice polish. If you just single click on the name of a script in the left margin of
Yep.
script workspace, just single click on it, don't double click. It now shows you a little eyeball icon up in the tab for that script, and that means
Oh.
that you're just previewing that script. That what that means is that this window, that tab that you're looking at, is just ephemeral. That it's going to disappear as soon as you click on another script. It's basically the preview of that script, but it's not actually anchored to the script workspace.
Now,
It,
wait, I got to ask you, how do you find out these things?
how did I find this out about that eyeball? Well, the first thing I did was go to the FileMaker 15 help documentation on their website, and they say, oh, the eyeball icon means you're in preview mode.
Okay.
But it doesn't explain what preview mode means. I'm like, what? What does that mean? So I went to the discussion forums on the FileMaker website, and I posted a question, and the people there explained it to me.
Oh, cool. All right.
That,
That's a good one.
but that brings up the second conversation that you just opened up, Tony, which
Okay.
is that the new FileMaker Pro help is now web-based, and it takes you to their website. So they can constantly, if they want to, they can be constantly updating the documentation because you're now accessing a live website. You can search it. You can even download it if you need it offline as well. But now they even have a search for their for their help, which they didn't have before. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's big. That's nice for the future too. Yeah, I like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it's all about developers. They got developers, developers,
Well, let's
developers.
see. Hold on. Now I got to push back here. I got to see like all about developers. You say. I'm going to jump in with something that jumped out at me that I don't think. Okay, iBeacon's got a lot of attention, and that's great because I think it's very cool. iBeacons. But here's what I want to shout out. A big shout out to what they did in. I want to use the right name here because if I don't, I know you're going to catch me on it. ESS. All right. So I'm looking at my little list here. I'm looking at my FileMaker correspondence system because I have each of these features laid out here. So they have more ESS. They've got Postgres, which Ruby on Rails most often is deployed on top of Postgres database. So building ESS for Postgres means that FileMaker systems can integrate with Ruby on Rails based apps more easily than before. You could always do it with like a JSON back and forth.
Interesting.
Uh, and then they also added DB2. And let's see, I hope I get this
So,
right.
so these are
IS.
things that you're using, because I don't use any of these technologies that you're talking about. These are things that affect you on a regular basis,
Well, we
right?
have we have a client that comes to mind that has a Ruby on Rails app, and it's kind of like you can have 10 features and 10 clients, and then it's mix and match. You can say, oh, so if we have a client who's a museum, for instance, we're going to tell them about iBeacons, and if we have a
Mm-hmm.
client who's running Ruby on Rails web app, we're going to tell them. And they're not running a museum, and they're not going to care about it. We're not going to tell them about that. We're going to tell them about the
Yep.
thing they're most likely to use.
Yep.
Because how much attention span do you have? That's our job to filter and to try and pick, and to with the amount of attention that a client has to listen to our stories and advice,
Yep.
we're going to lead off with our strongest thing.
It's so true. I really love this iBeacon thing. I mean, it really opens up a whole new world for developers. In so many different things, right? Museums is probably the obvious, vertical market that we can all attack now.
Yeah, I
And
think that's the number
where?
one: museums, exhibits,
Yeah,
developer conferences.
developer conferences. Of course, people will want to use them in warehouses as well. I mean, but then again, it's not RFID, right? It doesn't tell you that you actually are standing next to these products. You'd have to put the iBeacon on the shelf, and you hope that those products are on the right shelf or whatever. Which is why it's more suited for exhibits and museums, but and developer conferences. But I think that we probably haven't even begun to see what people are going to use the iBeacon thing for.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things. Well, like you said, museums, maybe warehouses. I'm not convinced that that's the number one use case. I think it is museums. Jay from Calibri did a presentation at the New York FileMaker Pro user group about iBeacons, and it was it was very thought provoking, and it was like brand new. Product had just come out. We looked at it here. We did a little schematic, so we're ready. But we put out a lot of ideas, and then we work on the projects that the clients want to do. First
Hmm.
off, obviously,
Did he give an iBeacon demonstration at the New York FileMaker user group?
he did, and it was great. He had
What
some.
was the presentation and what did he
Oh
show?
gosh, let me think. It's been a long day. It was sort of an intro, and being the New York group, it was of course lively conversations, and one of the conversations, and this goes back to what you were saying, is what is the use case? Because you mentioned RFID, and that's something that we spoke about in the group. Because an iBeacon, and here's my take, and this is I'm like looking around for my schematic here because I have like an infographic around here somewhere. The My take on the technology is you look at the technology and you try and figure out what fits. Like RFID does what it does.
Yep.
Barcodes do what they do. Now, what do iBeacons do? Because I think knowing what they do will give you an idea of what is the right fit for them. What is the project that should be done. So an iBeacon, let's see, what does it do? It passively generates a signal saying, I'm here.
Yep.
And you can code them up with a major and a minor. And so if you have a museum, and we're actually working on a diagram that might be like a make-believe museum. And so you're walking around the museum, and there's 4 paintings, let's say. You go to the first thing, and you're standing in front of it, and the iBeacon is this thing, and you have an app that you downloaded ahead of time, running FileMaker Go, and it's consuming that signal. And there's all these signals, but it's close to this one picture, and then it's saying, oh, I'm close to this thing. And then you click a button, and it brings up a picture of the painting, and then you're like, oh, that's the one. And then it says, okay, here's the painting. And the painting is, and it said, would you like to hear the painter talk about what inspired him or her? Or you say, like, do you want to see a slideshow of some of the other things? Or do you want to, like, click a button and opt in or something like that?
Mhm.
Um, in terms of warehouse, I think that's a different thing because if you're going out doing picks in a warehouse, you should already know where everything is, unless the bins are moving around.
Unless the bins are
Unless the
moving.
bins are moving around.
Yeah, yeah. The warehouse is more of an RFID thing, whereas a museum is more. Yeah, it's almost like I think you almost. Yeah, I think we just nailed it right there. Is that iBeacons are more for you moving to certain objects, and RFID is more for the objects themselves moving around a location.
Yeah, like maybe the objects are going out, like your, I don't, rental equipment where
Yep.
there's a bin full of things and they're moving out the door on a conveyor belt, let's say, and as they go by, you're logging in a database the status of out and something like that. Um,
Yeah, 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 exactly, exactly. And and that is like the beauty of RFID. And iBeacon is where things are static in in certain places, and then you as the human are walking to different things.
yeah, and
I mean, it
then
could even be used in amusement parks and stuff. Like, I mean, it's so
yeah,
exciting.
actually,
This
that's
iBeacon
another. I
thing.
think that's a good use case right there because it's kind of like you're near there. Find out more about what. And I listen to other podcasts about iBeacons, and there's some more complicated things with retail and opt-in. I personally like the one about the amusement park or the museum or the exhibit, where you can find out more. And I think you do have to also you have to build an ecosystem because it's the beacons together with the app that's got to be preloaded in order to consume the signals from the venue that you're in. Anyway, I haven't
That
done
is
an
correct.
iBeacon
No, no, that
project,
is
so what the
correct.
heck
It
do I
does have
know?
to be a vertical. I'm sorry, I cut you off there. What
Well,
was that?
I haven't yet, and I think it'll be interesting to see what at the developer conference, um, what obviously the DevCon to go. It's June 30th. The annual DevCon to go app is
Hmm.
coming out. I guess any day now.
Oh, and I bet they're going to use iBeacon in this year's app.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be shocked if they didn't. They always showcase the newest features.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job with that DevCon to go app. In fact, they were using SQL before anyone else I knew was using SQL in FileMaker, and they do really advanced stuff in that app. I mean, it's a really nice showcase piece for the product, actually. I want to say something. There's a few other really great things about FileMaker 15 that they cleaned up from a developer's point of view. Like, it is such an incredible pleasure to work in layout mode again for the first time in years. Like, have you noticed this, Tony? Like, now when you're in layout mode, like, the objects snap into place exactly where you would expect them to. If you hold down the shift key, things actually drag in straight horizontal and vertical lines. And
Interesting.
best of all, Tony, they fixed the long-standing bug. I
Okay.
mean, this is one of the greatest things of all, is that now when you align objects center with each other, center vertically, I believe it is.
Hmm.
Maybe it's horizontally. No, I think it's vertical. Yeah, I think it's centered vertically. It used to give you decimal fractions of points. Do you remember that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think I've seen that. Yeah.
oh, it was the worst. Tony, you would try to align objects, and it would align an object at 26.2 pixels to the left. And so if that wasn't bad enough that you're dealing with decimals of pixels,
Right.
what was worse, though, what made it even 10 times worse than that, was that any objects that aren't placed on a point 0 pixel are blurry. They end up blurry because
Right.
FileMaker
So
can't.
there were consequences of the. So basically, they've. So you're saying FileMaker. This is you notice an amazing amount about the product. It's so you're saying FileMaker 15 when you're doing your thing, you got your head down, you're doing FileMaker development, you're just noticing a lot of polish.
It's polish, 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 polish. I mean, I haven't been this excited about FileMaker in years, and this is all I do every day. And this is truly their greatest release in years because of the polish, the performance, the stability, and they didn't go overboard with new features. They added big, great new features that extend the platform, such as iBeacon. And but
iBeacon and the. Let me see if I'm gonna. I'm gonna. I mean, I think you're right. Like all these, help us, help you features, help the developers, help the user. Those are incredibly important. Just to make it complete, I'm looking at my little list. I'm just gonna checklist some of these things off. Undo scripting, which I guess would fall under developer productivity. I never make a mistake, so I don't really use that feature. 3D touch support.
Oh, 3D touch support. Yeah, that's where you can. Oh, yeah, yeah. That's on iOS where you can click and hold on the do a deep press on iPhone to
Hold on,
launch a
let me.
recent app.
I just took this off the FileMaker website, and to be honest, I'm not that super familiar, but I can read what they said. They said, go to the app that you want right away from FileMaker Go icon. All right, okay, so that's a feature, maybe not as big as iBeacons.
Well, it's a big FileMaker Go feature, bigger than that one, is the fingerprint support. You can now unlock your Touch ID support. You can unlock your databases on your iPhone or your iPad or your iPod
Yeah,
Touch.
that does sound. Yeah, that is bigger, and that's good. That's a good one.
Huge. And how cool is that we as FileMaker developers can tap into this native iOS technology. We can tell our customers, hey, you want Touch ID in your FileMaker system? No problem. Done. We got it. Boom.
Yeah, I mean that's the rapid application development thing. The
Yeah,
web-based
yeah.
tells. I'm
Sorry, I got
sorry.
to go back to iOS real quick. I got to go back to the Touch ID real
Yeah,
quick.
go for it.
I mean, you want to talk about rapid application development. I mean, you just brought it up. You want to know how rapid this application development is in FileMaker? If you want Touch ID support, you don't have to do anything. That's how rapid it is. It's built into FileMaker Go 15. The only thing we have to do is if we don't want it, we just check the checkbox that says disable Touch ID. It actually says require passcode. So,
Okay.
so basically, it's so rapid that it's already built in, and there's only one checkbox if you want to disable it. I mean, I don't know why the whole world isn't developing in FileMaker. I'm glad they're not. I'm glad they're
Yeah, it's a
not.
mystery to me as well. The whole world. Well, that'd be a lot of people there. Touch. All right. So Touch ID.
App
Uh,
extensions is another new
do you have
thing.
any? What's that? Which one?
App extensions. I mean,
Oh
this
yeah,
now
app extensions. Hold on now. Do you understand what those are?
Yeah, this is actually very cool also. Now we're getting into more user-friendly features as opposed to developer-friendly features, although this is developer-friendly as well. App extensions are when you go to a share sheet on iOS,
Okay.
and you're like, let's say you're looking at a Google Doc, for example, and you click share, right? You click the share button on iOS, and it gives you the choice to email it, tweet it, send it to Facebook,
Okay.
whatever, anything. I mean, maybe a Google Doc's not the best example, but whatever. You're on a web page or whatever. The point is that when you're in other apps now, when you press that share sheet, you can send those files to FileMaker Go. And vice versa. FileMaker Go can now send things like your container fields, like your JPEG files, things like that. You can send to other apps on your iPhone as well. So
Hmm.
you can now, so basically FileMaker Go can send and receive documents from other apps on iOS, including apps like Dropbox. So now you can actually interact with cloud storage. You can even import into container fields from an app like Dropbox. So in a way, what this means is that FileMaker Go can now import files that you've put into Dropbox or Box.com or whatever, all from your iOS device. It basically makes the iOS version of FileMaker, much, much, much more integrated, so you don't need to switch over to your desktop or laptop.
I like the way you explain that, and I like that you mentioned Dropbox because it kind of connects to something that I was just as you were talking, I was like taking notes and I was thinking like, what are we working on right now? Because we did a bunch of FileMaker Go projects like 6 months ago, and
Mm-hmm.
then right now we're doing a big ESS, and we just put a FileMaker server up on AWS, Amazon Web
Oh,
Services for a client.
nice. How'd that work out?
So far so good. We're I mean, it's up, it's running. They're using it. They're uploading. They had some really big files, like gigabytes. It's just a couple days ago. We talked to them yesterday, I think. I think they were busy today anyway. So that's all good. Now, this particular client is using Dropbox. So we were like, well, what do you want to do for offsite backup? And I'm like, well, what are you already using? Because it could have been Google Drive, could have been Dropbox, could have been Box.com, or what. They said, oh, we use Dropbox all over the place. So I said, how about Dropbox? Because client already knows that, they already use that, they already have that. We could use that.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
we're going to
Wonderful.
do some stuff because their databases are moving from their office up into the cloud. Dropbox is what we're going to use to migrate. So so far so good.
Wonderful.
And so the
Wonderful.
sheets I haven't. It sounds like I haven't done that much with that, but I thought your overview of that feature was good
Well, think about
as far
this.
as I could tell.
Well, here's another example. Yeah, I have a client, right? And I have not actually started building this system for them yet, but it's going to be starting soon. So I can report in the future if we have any problems with this. But they keep all their PDF contracts within FileMaker.
Okay.
And what they need to do, though, is they need to get them signed through DocuSign. You know that website,
Yeah,
DocuSign.com?
we did a little DocuSign. Um, we actually signed some DocuSign, so we were a consumer of that product. We haven't done any integration. I'm guessing it's a RESTful API.
Oh, I actually don't know because this is what we're going to do. We're not actually going to be using a RESTful API, although I believe that we could.
Okay.
You ready for this?
I am.
They want to be able to take those contracts that are in FileMaker and send them to DocuSign. But the trick is they want to do it all from their iPhones in the field because they're
Oh.
standing with their clients in the field and they want their clients to sign through DocuSign. So with FileMaker Go 15, what we can do is right from within FileMaker, right? Because in FileMaker is just the standard boilerplate empty template contracts.
Yep.
What they're going to do is from the container field in FileMaker Go 15, they're going to click on it and they're going to share it. They're going to send it to the DocuSign app.
Nice.
So it'll be sent from a PDF from a FileMaker container field into the DocuSign app on their iPhone, which then goes into their DocuSign account, and the client can sign it right there, and it stays in that DocuSign account. Of course, if they wanted to, because of these share sheets, they could probably send the signed document back into FileMaker again when they're done.
I like it. I like it. I really, I get a kick out of the workflow things where it's like you got this piece and you got this piece, and they're all kind of flowing, and good things are happening, and things are getting smoother, and everybody's getting more efficient, and
Totally,
so
totally.
that's a nice good shout out to the app extensions feature in the real world, a bunch of practical use cases.
Absolutely.
You know,
You know, can
someone was saying
I,
on one of the websites, "Oh, there's no new features." I'm like, "Well, I counted 16, so
oh my
I don't know
God.
what list you're looking at."
There's so many new features for developers, and there's tons of great new features for users too. Especially
So
on
what do we got for
FileMaker.
users here? I've got this list of all the new features, and as we talk about each one, I'm making it disappear. I'm using the omit feature. That's a shortcut called the omit.
You know,
Command T on your keyboard.
Tony, I just have to remember, you're so modest. You're so modest. People don't realize that you are one of the key people behind one of the greatest FileMaker developers groups in the country, which is the New York FMP group. There's two really, really premier groups in this country. It's the LA group, which is called FM Disk. And
Boo!
no, I love that group. And then there's the New York group, the NYF.
Yay!
Two coasts have the two best FileMaker developer groups. And Tony, you rarely brag about what an incredible job you and your team have done with that group. And I just want to do a shout out because not only are you guys a great group, but I've never heard New Yorkers bicker so much.
And then I'll go out to dinner.
And then they all go out to, yeah, you guys all bicker at the meetings and then you all go out to dinner and all love each other. It's incredible. It's a New York thing.
Well, I mean, you can see from the website nyfmp.org. You can see we've got we have a lot of people doing a lot of really interesting things. Look at our website. I think we've done a really good job of meeting every single month for years. Maybe we miss 1 or 2 months a year for the holidays and also for DevCon when we overlap. But we do 2 or 3 presentations per, and I've been, I go, I learn, you know, and I would refer people to the website, and you can see some of the topics that we've covered already, with more to come.
Yeah, I think if you're on the East Coast, nyfmp.org, and if you're on the webs, and if you're on the West Coast, FMDISC, FMDISC stands for FileMaker Developers in Southern California, fmdisc.org.
Yeah, and
So,
all kidding aside, it's I would love to go to some of their meetings, and they're actually a talented bunch of people, and
very
I was
talented.
kidding about the booing. I was just trying to be
No, of
impartial.
course. We know the New York LA rivalry. Hey, you know what? Here's another huge developer feature, Tony, which
Okay.
you and me love. The scripting now has undo. We can never undo in ScriptMaker before. It's not, I know it's
That was
not
the
ScriptMaker.
one we talked about that earlier. I said I never make a mistake. You didn't believe me.
You know what? I only made
That's more for you. Never mind.
no, it's true. Tony has never made a mistake,
I
everybody.
never
And
needed to undo. No, just
I
kidding.
only made that one mistake. Do you
I
remember
just
that
go to
one?
the backup.
What? Yeah, what's that?
I just pulled the backup off the server and then reinstall or something
Tony,
like
do
that.
you remember I made that one mistake in FileMaker in 2011? That was my
I,
only mistake I ever made.
I do remember. I think I felt a ripple in the force.
But think about that. We can now undo. Oh, another cool thing is FileMaker now highlights your script errors. Like if you import a script from another database, for example, or another table, another file,
Okay.
and you import it, right? And it says go to layout, for example, but that layout doesn't exist because you imported the script. Well, it'll now highlight that script step in red
In the syntax coloring.
in the syntax coloring, right?
Nice. All right. So another example of the roadmap where it came out and it did like 6 different syntax colors or something like that, and now there's more. So this is becoming an increasingly more colorful application. And as we mentioned earlier, we like color.
We like color. Get that delete record button
Color.
showing some
When in
color.
doubt, add color.
When in doubt, add
Maybe
color.
not too much, but just the right amount. A little bit of color.
Right amount. And you know what's so funny, Tony? Do you notice? Let me ask you a question. When you work in Script Workspace, have you noticed, like at first, the colors, they were hard for me because we never had colors before in Script Workspace, and they didn't really make a lot of sense. But now, they subconsciously start working with your mind, where suddenly you start looking for those green lines, which are comments to break things up.
Yep.
And did you notice that it subconsciously works on your brain?
There's been some recent scientific studies that human beings respond to colors.
Are you making this up?
I'm being facetious. I think the no, I love color. I think that it reminds me of like a Tony Robbins seminar, and I, by the way, did walk on hot coals successfully without burning my feet. They had a little snafu recently.
Congratulations. Do you know
Some
that the key to that is that there's ashes, the ashes on top keep your feet from getting burned as long as you walk at a steady pace. If you stop, then your feet sink beneath the ashes and you burn your feet.
I have to say, I saw some things that night that I can't even talk about on this podcast. I really saw. I bumped into one guy and I said, "Wow, you walked?" And he said, "I walked 6 times." And I
Oh,
saw this true story, believe it or not. I saw Tony Robbins walking across hot coals at a slow, leisurely pace, carrying someone who happened to be in a wheelchair at the time.
shut up.
And it was 30 feet. It was in Austin, Texas, by the way. Austin, Texas. Shout out.
You didn't tell me you were in my town?
This was like 10 years ago. I
I
don't
was
think you were
not
born
here.
at that
I
time.
was not here. I was not born yet.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know, and I saw one. I caught one guy. There was somebody. All right, hot coals, water, dirt, this and that. So I'm walking around after I walk because I was like, to be honest with you, I was 90% successful. I was 10%. I got a little hot spot, but it was very, very interesting experience. And I don't know what to make of it. But there I am. There's some guy comes flying off the line, and it's slippery. So I grabbed him so he wouldn't knock me over and he wouldn't fall down. And I did feel it did feel like there was an electrical charge. So what can I
Wow.
say? I saw Tony Robbins walking across slow motion carrying a guy in a wheelchair. I saw one guy who said he walked 6 times. No reason not to believe him. And who knows? Anyway, a
Wow.
little bit off topic for our podcast here,
It's
but
okay. It's okay. Our listeners also love Tony Robbins, I'm sure.
uh, I would just say if you're going to walk across hot coals, do it at your own risk. This is not medical advice. This is not fire walking advice. This is it's not even FileMaker advice. If you go mess up your database, it's not our fault. It's yours. But if you're using FileMaker, you're on the right track.
Tony,
So yeah,
you want to say
color. I
that
think color is great, and
color,
I think
right?
people are
Oh,
saying,
we
bring
should
it
have
on.
hot coals. We should do colorful hot coals in FileMaker.
I think it's a perfect example of it's like if you had monochromatic coals and you had gray coals and red coals, you want to be able to tell the difference. And the same thing with the script workplace. There was a tweet some guy today said, I want a different color for any time you change context because in FileMaker context is king.
It's a really good point. That's a really, really, really great point. It's all about the context. That would be amazing if that could somehow be accomplished.
Like a go to layout script step is a potential change in context. A GTRR is a potential change in context.
Well, you know what I was thinking when you said that? Think about this, for example. What if, I mean, this would almost be impossible, right? But what if, like, while you're in one context, like, right, like on one layout that's a table, what if all those script steps are like a similar color, the same color, and then the script changes color halfway through when you switch to a different layout because now you're on a different table and you're in a different context.
Yeah,
So
that would be amazing. I wouldn't hold my breath on that feature, but I think it'd be very cool.
that would be amazing, wouldn't it? Yeah, I
It
know.
would.
I would
Yeah.
rather.
I'm not sure that. I think that'd be a little bit. I think if you put a team of 100 programmers in for about 10 years, you could be able to write that code.
I bet they could do it in 2 years. You know
That would be cool. Yeah.
it's so funny. I would just like to point out to our listeners, who are the astute listeners out there, that Tony, you and me have both called the script workspace all three names: script workspace, script maker, and the fictional script workplace.
Demonstrating flexibility, an important characteristic in a FileMaker developer.
Exactly. I just want everyone to know that we are spontaneous, flexible, and we're very improvisational. We can make up names as we go.
And in FileMaker, there's multiple ways to do something, and there's multiple names to call something.
That's right. I still call the managed database area defined fields.
Hold on, I got to check to see what it's called this week.
It's called.
Manage database, and then, but wait, there's more. Tables, fields, and relationships. All right, so let's see. Hold on. There's some things that really deserve to be shouted out. I don't think these guys should be left out.
Shout them out, baby. Shout them
Shout
out.
it out. Here we go. Okay. Portal inline progress bar.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant. It's paint the layout, paint what you can. If you got something that's going to take longer to paint, do a little progress bar. We want to get to work right away.
Absolutely. I really hope they bring that to unstored calculations and summary fields because that would eliminate every final
Well,
bottleneck
what
that
about your other feature you just mentioned? You got to make some choices here.
performance would outweigh that color one.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we got
Thank
your,
you. Let's prioritize.
sequence. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
yeah, yeah. If they could bring that inline progress bar to summary fields and unstored calculation fields, think about the performance improvements we would see. I mean, the only time our clients, ever get spinning beach balls in FileMaker is when summary fields and unstored calculations are calculating. That's it.
Okay, I'm with you on that. All right, let's put that on the list.
Put
Maybe
it on
it's
the
easy,
list.
maybe it's hard. So that's a pretty cool. Portal inline progress bar.
Yep.
Then all right, concealed edit box. Did we mention that?
We did not.
So you're typing in a password. Somebody's looking over your shoulder.
Yep.
Maybe there's a nanny cam or something going on, and or maybe who knows. And then you're typing away, and you can type, and nobody can see what you're typing. I guess.
Another great feature. I'd like to point out to everybody, of course, that this data is not encrypted. It's not hidden. It's
It's
still
not. In other words, unless you're using EAR, encryption at risk at rest.
right when your whole database is encrypted. But yeah, it's just a visual thing. It's just a cosmetic thing on the screen. So if someone's standing over your shoulder, they can't see what you're typing. The other thing is if you click in that field, it does not let you cut or copy that text out of that field. So you can't click into someone's bulleted symbol field, cut it, and then paste it into a plain text document. So they prevent you from getting the data out of there if you're a snoop.
Okay, and that so we've seen a number of enhanced security features. So I think that would this feature would fall into that general category and would lead us smoothly into another feature in the security category, which is more SSL certificates supported.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And we were just dealing with some as part of this rollout that we're doing. We're rolling out an SSL certificate, and we're right in the middle of that. So they have a number of SSL certificate vendors and certificate products that are supported in the whole circle of trust. That's a whole podcast in and of itself.
It is, and not only that, but they make it easier to create your certificate requests.
Yep, they do. They've got the FileMaker Server Admin they've always had the FileMaker Server Admin Console, and they've built some of the functionality of the certificate process into. I'll be honest with you. We're probably going to be using command line because we like to get close to the metal.
I learn something new about you every day. I did not know you were a command line guy.
I love the command. I mean, do I love the command line? That's a little bit strong. The command line is really powerful, and we do a lot on the DevOps side.
Tony,
Moving backups around with PowerShell or OSX shell, that kind of stuff. It's gnarly, but it's powerful.
I recently got obsessed with all these Mount Everest movies. There was the new movie that came out last year called Everest. Then there was the original IMAX movie that came out in 1998 or something called Everest. And then I read the book Into Thin Air,
Oh yeah.
which the movie Everest was loosely based on. All about
Yeah, I think
all
I
the,
actually might have even that may be the book. Someone gave me a book about the people going up the mountain, and it didn't completely work out well for everybody.
yeah, one of the biggest disasters in Mount Everest history. I think 8 or 12 people died in one day. I think it was 8 people died in one day, and then 16 people died within a 1 month period or something like that.
Yeah.
Really terrible tragedy. But I want to now be the first FileMaker developer to develop a solution on top of Mount Everest with an
Why don't you,
iBeacon.
when you're there, why don't you plant like an iBeacon? Yeah, you're gonna. Sorry.
Dude, we should put
So I got there before you. I got the iBeacon flag planted before you.
This just goes to show we're refining our improv comedy that we're both coming to the same jokes at the same time.
That one wrote itself.
That would be hilarious. Eye beacons on Everest.
Well, I suppose what to do is maybe, yeah, you still have to. I'm thinking if like you could use it to verify the person that was there, but I think you need more. Um, there was this thing. There was this ultimate marathon thing where instead of using iBeacons, they had like books, and to prove that you were there, you had to rip out some pages of the books. To,
Oh,
it's kind of
wait.
a low tech solution. Like in other words, you run 26 miles, and to make sure that you stuck to the course, you had an assignment to rip out page
Oh.
37 of the book.
This is some race that happened
Yeah,
somewhere?
some nutty race where they run like 10 marathons in a row or some 5
Oh
marathons in a row.
my God. Oh, and then to make sure that no one's cheating, there's some random book that you can't possibly predict at different checkpoints.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That's
it's kind of
clever.
like iBeacons, only like more like iBooks.
That's really clever. That reminds me of something I did back before the internet even existed. Way before digital cameras existed. It was for my like 25th birthday party. I had a Polaroid photo scavenger hunt. And I had to rent Polaroid cameras from the local camera shop. They charged like $10 a night to rent Polaroid cameras. I rented all these Polaroid cameras, and I had about 40 friends show up. And I use that term loosely, right? They were acquaintances. I don't really have 40 close friends, but people I knew, people I worked with, clients,
That
stuff
was
like
before
that.
Facebook, because once
It was before
Facebook hits,
Facebook.
then everybody's got like 400 friends.
Exactly, exactly. It was basically all my clients and, people from my acting classes and things like that. Anyone I knew. There was about 40 or 45 people that showed up.
All right.
And I divided everyone up into teams of four. They could choose their own team if they knew people, but otherwise I just randomly assigned people. And then I handed out a Polaroid camera to everyone. I bought Polaroid film for every camera, for every team. And then they had 3 hours to take as many photos as possible that were on this sheet of paper that I gave them. And and they were crazy. Some of them were really super, super easy, like um, get a picture in front of the Mann's Chinese Theater in Hollywood. But then some of them were really, really difficult, like get a picture of your entire team behind the counter at McDonald's serving French fries to a random stranger.
So you're the person that we can blame for the selfies coming.
I invented selfies. That you just built up to my story, the grand climax of my story, Tony, which is that I invented selfies before selfies existed.
Well, thank you very much for elevating the human culture.
Exactly. No, that actually wasn't the point of my story. What was the point of my story? It had something to do with the story you just told about not being able to cheat. Oh yeah. So in my day, there was really no way they could possibly cheat because there was no internet, there was no cell phones, there was no digital photography. They had to go out with this Polaroid camera and they had to come back with the Polaroid pictures. I mean, there was no way they could cheat, basically. Now
and
you
and
Photoshop this.
I'm a little upset I wasn't invited. I mean, I know I didn't know you back then, but still.
Well, you know what? You didn't tell me when you came to Austin 10 years before I knew you. So now we're even.
I guess we're even. All right, even sit down might have been the same
Either,
weekend.
see, it was the same weekend. Your Robbins seminar was the same weekend as my birthday party.
That was intense. Um,
We gotten way off topic.
we did. I think we. Let me see. Oh, I wanted to. I think we. Let me just. All right, upgrade. I'm just going to read them off. All right, basic starter solutions, highlighted script errors, which you covered. In product updates, visit the website for more
Really nice.
information. More.
Now, FileMaker, you don't have to download updates anymore. It updates in the program just like every other app does. It's brilliant.
Well, the thing, as we speak, we're on version 15.0.1, and I guess we're all eagerly waiting 15.0.2 so that we can test the in-product update feature.
Yep, yep, yep.
So there's that. We talked about the SSL certificate. There's something here's pretty what do you call it under the hood or high tech top call statistics, and I think it's a little bit early to know exactly what people are going to be able to do with that. But they're starting to give us some function. There's starting to be some functionality for identify those processes that are putting the most strain on the server and since all of my applications run flawlessly and they're so beautifully optimized, I've never had any issues with speed in any of the solutions I've ever written. So this is another feature that will be of no use to me or my clients. Plus, I don't understand. No, I sort of understand it.
I'd like to clarify what this really does for us, which I think is really wonderful.
That would be good because I sure don't know.
Well, it basically we already had logging in FileMaker Server, but it was live logging. You had to start it, you had to stop it, it would save the log. And so if someone was having a problem with spinning beach balls or the server was going really, really slow, you could go back later. You could say, okay, try to run this process right now. I'm going to start logging it on the server. And I'm going to see how long this is taking. Maybe it's slowing down. The difference is with this top call logging is that it's keeping an archival history. You don't have to be actively in front of the server trying to figure this out. You can go back like 2, 3, 4 days later and you could review the top call logging statistics to see what has hogged most of the memory on the server over the last X number of days or whatever.
Yeah.
So you go back and you can say, oh my God, it's this one script that's always slowing down the server. So you don't need to be like right there while the problem's happening. You could be like actively researching past problems by looking at this top call statistics.
I like it. If anyone from the New York FileMaker Pro user group is listening, or anyone who's going to be passing through town, I would invite you to do an in-depth presentation on this feature because it sounds like it's got a lot of promise, and I think we could spend half an hour to 45 minutes on this with a deep dive.
Yeah.
It does sound interesting, and all kidding aside, we will be looking at that. We were actually looking at some access logs because we have a database that we built using FileMaker to consume the FileMaker access logs to get some statistics about the comings and goings of people in the system, and that's a whole other topic. But logging is good.
Yeah, and I think the access logs I think are archived. What I was talking about, there are different types of loggings in FileMaker Server. So
Events,
I might not have been
access.
Yeah, and then there's the one where you go. I'm not looking at a FileMaker Server admin console. There's that one screen that shows you the processes that are currently running, like scripts that are running, for example, and that is where the top call statistics logging I think comes in. So I may not have actually explained that feature perfectly, but I urge all of our listeners to explore it on their own.
Well, we're working live here without a net, so
we're up here.
If Scott got it wrong, he's just getting it wrong on purpose. Anyone who's listened to episode 1 knows the rules of the podcast. Anything that we can say that's right, we were just playing it straight, and anything that's wrong, we're just trying to draw someone else in to come in here and correct us.
That's right. If I just got that totally 100% wrong, guys,
it's all a big act.
It was just an act.
It's an act. So, phone us up, correct us, send us some email, and volunteer to come on the podcast and explain what the heck we got wrong. Proactive security warnings and product highlight script areas. I think we covered the FileMaker 15 release. Pretty nice.
Love it. Well, now I want to ask you a question, Tony, to wrap up the podcast.
All right.
If you could improve or fix 3 bugs in the product, or add 3 new features to the product, or fix 3 problems in the product, what would be your 3? And then I'll tell you my 3.
Okay. Let's think. 3, huh?
Or 2, or 4.
Well, this is, here's one thing that I did, and this is a little bit of a segue, and I also want to mention this because I think people will find it useful. When I think of the product, I think of the product in the sense of the product and its associated ecosystem. There's the product and the features that we know about and the features we maybe don't know about, some of which could make a big difference to our customers. So, true story, we were doing a product in FileMaker 14. This was maybe 6 months ago before 15 came out, and I was looking to see which script steps worked under which platform, Mac, Windows, iOS, and WebDirect. And I Googled, and I didn't see. FileMaker has a web page called FileMaker 13 Functions, and they do a little matrix of script steps versus, against versions. And there wasn't one for 14 because, they're busy documenting something else. and it didn't exist. So I just was scratching an itch, and over the weekend we built a really nice web page, and I'll put a link to the show notes because I think people find it useful. Built it for ourselves, scratch an itch. FileMaker 14 script steps, very colorful,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
just the process of doing it. It's another one of those wax on, wax off because you're looking at all these script steps and like,
Yep.
there's at least a couple. I won't tell you which ones. And I was like, what the heck does that do? Uh, and then I was like, oh, I should use that for this, or I could add this little, work the platform, work the platform. No, and so we did one for script steps, we did one for functions, we have one for script triggers internally at the moment. Takes a lot of effort to put these web pages up. Sortable. So we have script steps, and it's dynamic in that
Amazing.
sortable, sort by type. So you can see kind of like, oh, these are the collections of things that do text editing. Oh, I could use these together. These are the things that do account management. Oh
Mm-hmm.
man, what a collection of useful things. And then the
Mm-hmm.
platform,
Amazing.
including. Anyway, so
What Tony is saying in his very, very
yeah.
way is that Tony has done a better job of
Oh,
documenting FileMaker than FileMaker's website themselves.
well, thank you. I got to tell you what we're doing is we're pointing. This was this page for script steps and functions is. I think we did add a couple things. The sortability is really useful, and the ability to see really quickly what
Yep.
functions. And the weird thing, and this is actually sort of really really interesting. There was a big brouhaha about the runtime. And there's some, it's deprecated. Maybe it's gonna, maybe it'll go away. Maybe it won't. Who knows? What happened kind of coincidentally? We'd used the runtime in the past. We have a pretty big client. Not just big for us, but I think also somewhat big for FileMaker as well. They're making some good licensing fees on their side. We're doing well as well, so it's a kind of a win-win-win. Guess what? Guess what? Part of the platform they used recently that you don't hear that has been threatened at deprecation. Anyone want to guess?
Oh, wow.
Runtime. So it
Runtime.
was really interesting. They had a particular use case to. They needed
Wow.
to do some data collection. The data collection is in a relatively complicated method, where a web page would not suffice. They had a pre-existing data collection methodology in FileMaker, so we split that off, built a runtime, and distributed it out to people. So the client is benefiting. FileMaker is getting some visibility out there in the marketplace, which might lead to future sales. And so I'm going to join the contingent of people who say, like, let the runtime live. Let the runtime. But anyway,
Wow. Yeah, you're going to be part of the people with the
well,
pitchforks
I'm,
and
I'm
the
mentioning it because I think that, feedback, where you, Scott, you and I, and, people listening to the podcast, we're in the front lines. We see what's making a difference to clients, and, FileMaker is making decisions based on feedback.
I have a feeling, and I have zero inside information on this, so I don't really know, but my feeling is that when FileMaker does discontinue the runtime,
If let's not,
if they
we're
do,
gonna get angry letters here.
yeah,
If
yeah, because
if
it's,
theoretically, hypothetically,
it's still there. If they do take it out completely, my feeling is that they're going to replace it with something. I don't know. I have no idea. The only thing I'm basing that on is that I don't think FileMaker has ever left us high and dry by removing a feature, and that's not something you can say for Apple Computer Incorporated. Apple, discontinues and removes things all the time and leaves people high and dry. And I don't think FileMaker has ever left us high and dry. I would say almost 100% of the time, if they've taken something out, they've replaced it with something better. And so I'm hoping that for the people that depend on the runtime, that FileMaker will replace it with something better. That's just my look. This is just my opinion. I have no.
okay. I mean, I think that's true. Yeah, that FileMaker's done. We don't always see the next step on the roadmap. Certainly, FileMaker's done a pretty amazing job. It doesn't mean we're not going to critique here and there.
Yeah, which leads into my critique. Well, I think if I were to ask for three fixes in FileMaker,
Three, okay.
and I would love for the FileMaker execs to be listening to this section of the podcast.
I think it's required listening at FileMaker Incorporated, this
Required
podcast.
listening for FileMaker Incorporated. I think the first fix is something that we've all been clamoring for about 10, 15 years now, which is the ability to send natively now, right, without plugins, to be able to send formatted emails out of FileMaker. So if you're in a text field in FileMaker, you've got it highlighted in bold, you've got things
Yeah.
underlined, you've got colors, you click send email, and all the colors in bold and all the blah, 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 all that stuff carries over into your email. As we know, FileMaker only supports plain text email right now.
For Yeah, that's true. And actually, I think that would be good. And you know what? I'm gonna riff off that. I'm gonna jump in with you here.
Yeah.
So one of the most powerful features that FileMaker added ever was what's it called?
Oh, the web.
Web Viewer. Web Viewer. FileMaker
Oh,
8.5.
so do you go in there and then copy and paste it into an email?
No, so I had a thought because we have a little email archiving functionality that we rely on extensively here, and I thought I have no idea how you would implement this, but the idea of building in a native .eml viewer. So an email file, because we've done a lot of work with email over the years. We've done it this way and that way and this way and that way, and we're like on method number 4. We've done. I'll spare you the details. It's been a long journey. The So if you have an email client, like a real client, I don't want to offend Google, but say an email,
Yeah, like
like
Apple Mail or
Apple
whatever.
Mail, for instance, or something like that. I'm 99% sure with some of them, at least one of the ones that I'm using, you can take an email and you can drag it to the desktop, and it will produce
Oh, yeah, you can. It'll produce an email file.
a .eml file.
Now, you can drag that into a container field in FileMaker, but it won't preview it in
And
FileMaker.
this is what I'm saying is that if you had the ability to take a .eml file and view it as if it were like if you look at a .eml file, if you drag that into an email client like Apple Mail or whatever else you want to give a shout out to, any one of those email clients, it will render.
Right.
And it's kind of the same thing. If you point a web viewer at a web page, it will render the web page. So if it perhaps could be, and then you could, with a
Well, no,
web.
I'm talking about sending emails from FileMaker
I know. I'm just
to your
the
clients.
superset of functionality pertaining
Oh,
to
I
emails would
see. You're
include.
taking it to the next level. You're talking about everything email related.
Yeah, this. I mean, let's say with both features. Yeah, email like an email viewer, because then you could.
It's interesting. It's very interesting.
Anyway, it's just a thought.
Because what you're saying is then you could
I
almost
mean,
turn.
your idea would be more useful, to be honest with you, but I had thought about that, and I thought it's an interesting idea for people to consider.
Well, I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, that FileMaker. No, no, no. I actually really see the benefit of what you're saying, and I'll tell you why. I mean, I have clients that have me build interfaces. I've had 3 clients in the last 6 months that have me build interfaces where they drag attachments. They call them attachments into FileMaker,
Yep.
PDF files, JPEGs, and .eml files. And the JPEGs and the PDFs all preview in FileMaker, but the EML files don't. They have to export them back out. Or why I allow them to double click it in FileMaker, then it opens in the native app.
Yep.
But could you imagine if that could open up a whole new world.
Yeah, I think it could. Like the web viewer open up some markets. So if FileMaker can go to Apple, who we've beat up pretty good on this podcast, and as long as Apple's not too mad about my joke about the spotlight, the stop signs or anything like that, then say, hey, listen, that code that you have that you use for Apple Mail to render emails, can we license that from you guys? And then use that code to render the EML in FileMaker. I think it would open up. I don't think it'd be as big as the web viewer, but I would think it would be, would offer some benefits similar. And like you just said, you have a client that does it. I mean, most of my clients use email for something.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the more we can keep them in FileMaker, the happier they are.
Yeah, because then you get that integrated solution. So it's kind of like if you thought the web viewer was a good idea, if you thought viewing a web
Page.
content, then
Yeah.
it would follow as night follows day.
As
That the
night-
ability to view emails within FileMaker would
Yep, yep,
possibly be a good idea.
Yep.
And Apple's
let's
already
not
got the
forget-
code for Apple Mail, so just borrow the code.
Just borrow
License
the
it.
code. Just steal it. No, I'm joking.
Well,
We never steal software,
good
but
programmers
good programmers
steal,
copy-
metaphorically.
metaphorically steal. And of course, let's not forget sending formatted emails is very important. Okay, the next
Yes,
thing.
absolutely. I'm with you on that. HTML emails.
Yeah, these are here. I'm just going to give you real quickly, Tony. Yes, HTML
So
emails.
that was one feature. You had a second
That was
feature you
that
want?
was more of a feature request. Now I just want to tell you real quickly the list of bugs that I would like them to fix in FileMaker 15. I'll just run through these real quickly. There's just a few of them. Um,
Do these come with workarounds?
um, Good question.
All right, let's
I
see. Let's see.
don't
All right, maybe I got to
know.
work around. So what's the first one?
Okay, so the first one we already talked about. This is not a bug. We want colors on the toolbar in browse mode. We already talked about that
Yeah, we
because
really want it now. We mentioned twice, and we're going to
I
keep on
mentioned
mentioning it
twice.
until we get
Might
it.
have to cut that out. Next one is um, filtering scripts by folders. That, when we have a really big project that has thousands of scripts in the database, the only way to keep all those scripts organized is you have to have a really, really nicely, carefully organized hierarchy of folders for your scripts.
Okay.
And the thing is, in all previous versions of FileMaker, from FileMaker 13 and before, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, whenever folders came out,
Yeah.
you always filter your script list by folders, which made it super, super easy for us just to look at the folders in the scripts in that one folder. That has now been removed from the script
Yeah.
workspace, which is really, really difficult. But ironically, it's not removed from any of the other parts of the program. If you create a new script and you choose perform script as your script step, when you go into the perform script step and you choose another script, you get your filtering of folders back again. But the place that you actually need the filtering of folders, which is in the script workspace itself, the filtering of folders is gone.
So and this is FileMaker. Shout out to FileMaker. I think since the last podcast that we talked about, I don't know when they did this, but they merged some of their web properties into one. So they have the product ideas, which we didn't talk about now, but it's a pretty amazing thing where they've got 800 suggestions for product ideas up on the website. That's great, fun to play. And also product issues is now part of the community.filemaker.com, right? So the one you mentioned, I think you're right. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably falls into the category of like the comment bug that was there and then they fixed something that kind of like got left on the cutting room floor when they did the script workplace and they, shipped it and got it out the door. And I would not be at all surprised if they fix that pretty soon.
I hope from your lips to Dominique's ears.
That's good. I like
Um,
what you did there.
nice.
Yeah, so that's a good one. So what else you got that needs a little bit of improvement?
This one's a really big one for me personally, is that I'm constantly comparing scripts side by side in their own windows. I would love for them to extend out this preference area because we already saw they're starting to build out a script preferences area. I would love the preference to always open scripts in new windows. So we can always be comparing scripts side by side with each other. But along with that, though, is we're often comparing scripts, scripts that are similar, or we're copying the functionality, and we just want to, look at scripts side by side. The problem is that one of the problems here is that when you close the script workspace itself, it systematically and automatically goes through and closes all your open script windows that you've opened throughout your screen. So there's a reason that we opened all those scripts in their separate windows. They should remain open even if we close the main script workspace.
Mm.
So that was sort of two suggestions in
Okay.
one. One is I love a preference for scripts to always open in new windows. Although I guess it's not that difficult to right click and choose open a new window. But the other thing is this is the bug, when you close the script workspace, it should not go through all your monitors and close all the scripts that you've opened up side by side with each other.
Okay, yeah, it makes sense to me that it's so, yeah, because you want to close that. You got two scripts, you just want the two scripts, and then you want to close the thing so you have two windows instead of three, and then all of a sudden, instead of two windows, you have zero windows. I
Exactly.
could see that. All right, so
Here's another one.
it doesn't, yeah, so I could see that's a little annoying, not a showstopper bug.
Not a showstopper, which is why FileMaker 15 is so good, because these are not showstoppers.
Right, now we're down to like,
We're down to
um,
we're down to annoyances at this point.
all right.
little ones. Here's another one. This was saying they removed from FileMaker. It was in FileMaker 13 and earlier, but now it's gone. We use script parameters a lot. In fact, if you remember, script parameters was one of the best and most important new features
One of the
added
best
back.
features ever introduced into the product. Shout out to
Exactly.
version 8, I think it was.
I think wasn't it 7? Was it
Oh
not
no,
7?
I'm cheating because I got a cheat sheet here.
Oh, so it was 8
Hold on,
script
hold
parameters.
on. Let me stall, and we can always edit it. I'm pretty sure it was 8. I thought it was 8.5, but I think it was
I'm
8.
going to put it on 7, but you're going to put it on 8 or 8.5. You might be right.
Well, we spent like 300 hours doing this FileMaker code objects as
You know
ERD.
more than I do. You know more than I do on this one.
Only by
What version did script parameters come out in?
um,
It's basically whenever the get script parameter function came out. So you could just look that up.
I could, but let's just say it was sometime during our lifetime.
Well, I want to see who's
Because I
right.
think your story's better. So
Oh,
anyway, script parameters are
Tony,
great. We all agree. Script parameters are awesome.
oh, Tony, I
So
hate to embarrass you in front of our 20,000 listeners. It originated in FileMaker 7.
are you kidding? Script parameters in 7?
Yep. So
So all
I,
right, I was thinking of variables.
you owe me a dinner in New York or something now since I got that bet right.
Okay, I'm always happy to learn something new and make a fool of myself here. So
yeah,
script parameters. So in other words, the get script parameter function. And
but that's
I was thinking of variables because I'm often setting a variable to the get script parameter at the top of the script. So I stand corrected and I stand humbled, humiliated.
Tony. Your humiliation is accepted.
Okay, and I feel better. All right, I'm over it. So
Okay.
let's move on.
Okay. So anyway, so we all know script parameters were incredible because that was like the thing that enabled us to finally have one sort script
Yeah,
as opposed to a zillion different sort scripts for our different buttons.
that was a great thing for code simplicity.
Incredible thing, yes. But the problem now, well, this is the way it used to work is that when you double clicked on a button in layout mode, it would show you the script and the parameter. And it no
Oh,
longer does that anymore. Now, when you double click on a button in layout mode, it only shows you the script name. And you have no idea if a parameter is attached to it or not unless you go to the next screen. So, meaning that before you could just glance at the button, double click on the button, glance at it, see what parameter, change a parameter, and get out of it. Now, if you forget to go to the next screen, which is a total extra step that's unnecessary,
right.
you may not even realize that there's an inadvertent script parameter attached to that button. You may forget to go to that extra screen and set the script parameter. And probably a bigger problem is lingering script parameters. Like if you copy a button from one layout to the next and you forget to clear a script parameter. Anyways, the idea is
No, I'm
file.
with you on that. Much as it hurts me to do this, I'm going to have to agree with you here. And I just like I don't know what to say. I just agree with you. The like
Tony,
I think that
95%, 99% of the podcast was all of us agreeing.
really that high.
I
We
don't know.
really got to work
No, but
on
go on. I'm
the
sorry. I want to hear more about your agreement.
we got to work on the controversy here. The yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that I don't know why it landed there, and I hope I would imagine that I have heard the community speak and say, look, we're developers. I'm looking at the button setup. It doesn't have an overwhelming number of objects on it. I'm not experiencing any degree of cognitive overload. I like the concepts of simplicity up to a point. I think I can handle 10 objects instead of 8. So yeah, that would reduce the number of count the clicks. You have fewer clicks.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm with you. So it's like in the movies, 2 thumbs up on that feature.
Two thumbs up, Tony. It's like Siskel and Ebert. It's like we just agreed massively about the same thing. Yeah, the other things I have on my list are other little annoyances like that. But as you can see, these are little annoyances. I would say if I had to pick one more annoyance, it would be that when you open scripts in their own windows, which is really, really important to me, you lose a lot of information. You lose the whole toolbar at the top.
Let me just experience directly here. I'm following along at home, as I said.
Oh, I love it.
Open. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to move tab to a new window, and I'm going to have script workplace. So what am I losing here?
So you're losing pretty much every single button. You're losing the play button. You're losing the bug button, the debugger button.
Oh,
You're losing also the ability to see whether that script is granted full access privileges. You're also losing the ability to see if it's being included in the scripts menu. Now, those two things you can actually see by pulling down from the scripts menu at the top, but that's hidden
right, right.
information.
I'm a like my hands and wrists are working hard enough. I want to shift the workload from my hands and wrists over to my eyeballs.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And
Um,
the other thing is, some of those things are
so
super.
hold on. Let me digest what you just said there, because first off, I've been able to replicate your experience as you described it, and so where it's true, like the ability to run a script. Okay, there's a keyboard shortcut, but I thought the thing about the iconic representation as to whether it's in the menu or what is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I could see that.
Well, that used to be there. That was another thing that used to be in FileMaker 13 and is now gone.
Okay, and then I don't think it would kill us to have a couple more icons on this singleton script window.
Absolutely. Well, here's the other thing. Forget
If
about
it's easy to implement, I say do it.
well,
Of
think
course, I'm
about
not the person who gets to decide these things. But if it's easy, go ahead. Scott will
well,
be happy, and
think
that'll be nice.
about this. Even more important than seeing whether it's in the scripts menu is whether the script has been granted full access privileges or not, because
Right.
that can make or break a script, or that can destroy a
Oh,
solution.
yeah. That used to be a checkbox in the lower left-hand corner.
Lower left. That stuff needs to be there. That stuff
Yeah, I mean,
really.
I'm looking at a script and I'm looking at this space that's already got two icons on it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually hovering to see what the tooltips say.
And they do pretty
Show
much
or
no.
hide steps pane. So there's plenty of room for extra icons. You could put them
Plenty
there.
of.
They could be
I,
colorful icons.
and here's the other thing. How do you run the script that you've got open in its own window?
Well, that Command R. I'm not sure we're going to give you that one.
Is it
I
really?
mean, yeah. How do I run it?
Yep.
Well,
I
it's
don't.
a good point because it's Command R, which is a keyboard
Oh,
action as
there.
opposed to clicking a button.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. And here's the other thing. The
So, in
disable.
other words, you're saying that you would prefer, the ability to do something is nice. The ability to do it either with the keyboard or the mouse is in some ways preferable. More options, as long as they're not overwhelming, are
I'm
good.
not even saying that the mouse is preferable. What I'm saying is let's see those options, the ones that are really important. You know?
I think in general, I think you make a compelling case for some of these things and a strong case for others.
But Tony, you can see that at this point, my complaints and your complaints, they're more just little annoyances at this point. It's really the product is polished. The little things we need now are just minor refinements and enhancements. But overall, the product is solid, stable, impressive, incredible, robust. It's never been a better time to be a FileMaker user or a FileMaker developer.
Yeah, no, I think it's all fair. I mean, I think we both agree that the this evolution of the platform, this 12, 13, 14, 15 series, is at a sweet spot. They did the layout surface, and it's looking super polished. The script workplace is getting polished up. We don't seem to have, they're all small bugs, no showstopper bugs, no big crashing bugs that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
So basically, just a couple, minor things. So that's sort of standard for software, and I'd say actually better than average in terms of, no perfect software out there. So big shout out to
Big
all the
shout,
team at FileMaker who made
big
this happen.
shout
It's a
out.
massive code base. So just
Massive code base. Big shout out to the FileMaker engineers.
we
Big
try
shout out
and
to them listening to our needs and our
yeah, it's
desires.
required listening. Yeah, we find things to complain. It's what we do as programmers is try and find flaws, and we're not really able to come up with too much. So we like it. Keep up the good work. I'm recommending
And I
FileMaker
love
16 as the next name of the product.
that. Wow, I never even thought about that. Maybe
Yeah,
they should name the next one FileMaker 16.
just kidding.
You know, you know what's so
And I have no insider knowledge.
you know what's so funny? Actually, one final thing about all that is that I think that I like if they're going to stick to these annual releases. It made me really nervous before, but What I like about it is that it seems like they're rolling out fewer features with these annual releases, which I think is good. I think you don't want gigantic features. You just want refinements and maybe one or two big features because you want to spend a lot of the time doing the refinements, which it seems like they're doing.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's like they did the layout surface, which was gigantic. Where they rewrote the whole, as far as I can tell, they rewrote the whole layout surface, to lay the groundwork for the themes and the styles. That must have been, you could count that as one feature. You could count that as like a massive overhaul of a major component. And then the script workplaces, I think, kind of falls. That's like a massive. I don't think they've got any other massive overhauls. So like I said, I saw a lot of features. I don't think all the features hit everybody. I think that the ESS, I mean, that's been extremely good to us. I mean, every client that we work
Wonderful.
with that's got
Wonderful.
systems around, we always do the thing. Once we get situated and get work through the immediate punch list that they're focused on, we're always like, hey, we noticed you got like a web app on Ruby on Rails. Want to make sure you know that we could integrate with that pretty easily with the CSS. So I think there's a
Wonderful.
lot of things
Wonderful.
there. Not going to hit everybody. If you're doing Go, some things are going to hit your spot. And then final
Tony,
thought is
yeah,
they did something with WebDirect, so they made it that it runs on
on Android.
Android phones under some. So there's even more in this product than we can even fit in a very very long podcast episode.
Totally. And Tony, I think they might. Do you think they'll still allow you to develop for FileMaker if you keep calling it the script workplace? I'm just teasing. All right. Well, you guys, thanks for listening to our wonderful listeners. Thank you. And keep the fan mail coming. It keeps us going.
Send it to Scott directly. Anyway, yeah, good to talk with you again, Scott. And
Dude,
shout out to everybody at FileMaker,
yep.
and happy FileMaker to everyone out there.
Happy FileMaker. Happy DevCon, everybody.
Okay, all right, cheers,
See you
bye.
later. Bye bye.